Okay, so for this tutorial, I wanted to change my character's skeleton. So at the moment, there's nothing actually wrong with the skeleton I have. I just wanted to add to it. In this case, he didn't have a face rig. So I've gone back to my original model and added the face rig and also a couple of other bones in his hands. So my old skeleton was missing the face rig. So I wanted to add a new face rig to it. In truth, I did go ahead and already import it, but I thought it might be a good tutorial for the next person. So I started off by selecting everything and exporting it as FBX. Okay, just update it for today's date. And then across the side, I want just the selected objects. -Y is what's pointing forward. Apply transforms, geometry to face, armature. Only deform bones. I don't want it to add leaf bones. I'm not interested in any of the animations at the moment, but just in case. These are the settings that I normally set it to when I'm exporting anything. So before you do anything, I strongly suggest you back up your project. So in my case, my projects are not in the where it's looking for at the C drive. I don't store my projects in there. I've got them on a different hard drive. So what I could do is go to the address bar at the top, copy it, open a new folder, paste that in. That'll take me to where my project lives. If I then go back one directory, one folder, it's there, and I can just copy and paste that. Wait for that to finish, and then give it a different name. Okay, and there it is. It says copy. I can leave it as copy. Doesn't matter. For my tutorial, I've created 3 different methods in this video. They all hopefully achieve the same thing. There's just different ways of doing it. The way I saw it was that perhaps different scenarios may require different methods, and hopefully there's something for everyone. Method 1 was the quickest and easiest for me. I'll probably keep doing this way from now on. I discovered it while I was actually trying to explain method 2 and I was messing around. Method 2 is a more long-winded, but it explains some of the potential errors you may get better. And method 3 was if the skeleton was deleted instead and what different types of problems you may get. And then at the end, I've put some problems which may occur during all of these methods, just in case. Method 1. Okay, so here's my skeleton at the moment. It's got a blend mask and a couple of sockets attached. It's also got this bone exists only on the skeleton, but not on the current mesh. It's got an extra bone. It's also got an extra test bone there, which I do not want. So one way I've found is to go to a skeletal mesh which is already attached to my skeleton, which I can see there. Go into Blender and just export the mesh itself without the skeleton. Reimport it as just the object itself with no skeleton. Say yes, and then no. And then if you go back and check on your skeleton, so if you close it all down, and then check the skeleton itself, you'll see the skeleton's disappeared, but your sockets and your blend profile still remained. If you then go back to your character model, and reimport it with the skeleton, say yes, no, and then check on your skeleton again. So you've got to make sure you close it down first, otherwise you won't see any changes. Open it up again, and I can see there that the test bone is gone, and the extra trigger is also gone. The socket's still there, but the blend profile will lose its values, so I'll have to put them back in again. Okay, they're selected. Make sure to save. As you can see, my animations are all funny, but if you go into them, they have got the correct skeleton attached. So you can re-import them. The following bones exist in this imported animation. Pistol trigger. So this is referring to the fact that in my old skeleton, I've got the bone called pistol trigger. I've renamed it to pistol trigger R, but the animation is still linked to the old skeleton, so that's why I'm getting that. But I can ignore that for now. Let's brought that back. Or you can just save it, close it down, and open it up again. And there we go. And everything's back to normal. So if I check back on my skeleton, you can see the test bone's gone, and that extra pistol trigger. Method 2. Within Unreal Engine, if I was to import the new skeleton into the same folder, it might become a massive mess. So I'd suggest creating a new folder for it. Maybe just call it a new skelly. It doesn't matter. I intend to delete this anyway. So what I intend to do is replace this old skeleton with a new skeleton. You don't have the option to re-import, but on this one you do. So if I was to change that to my new one, and then check out my skeleton, and everything's there as I'd expect it to be. But I have this extra bone, which says this bone exists only on the skeleton, but not on the current mesh. And I can't seem to remove it. Won't go away. So what I could do is get rid of this and bring in a new one. Okay, find your new skeleton, import it in, make sure the skeleton remains empty. Okay, I don't need the duplicate textures, so I can delete them. If I delete these, the character being displayed here will disappear. So I'll leave these alone for now, just for the sake of keeping this up. And you can see here, I don't have that extra bone. But with a new skeleton comes a lot of problems. So to start with, it's missing the sockets. So if you've got any sockets, you need to make sure you bring them across. So for this, I was just highlighting what I needed and then pressing Control-C to copy and then Control-V to paste it. So this one, I've got another socket up here, which was attached to the holster hip L. Okay, so that's my sockets done. Another thing would be blends. So if you've got any blend profiles, you need to add them in again. So in my case, I created one called Remove Lower Body. So I need to add a new one. And in this case, I called it the same thing as what the previous one was. Remove Lower Body. And if you go into it, you can see what needs to be adjusted. So because these are new bones, I would have. So if you did manage to get away with just re-importing, you probably needed to update that. But for my case, okay, so that's the sockets and the blends. Okay, now we should be able to be in a position to replace the old skeleton now. So if I select my old one and press delete, choose my new skeleton, which was delete for today. So I've got all my animations all set up here. So replace references. Are you sure? Yes. So this error has come up because of my blend mask, remove lower body. Looking back at it now, it's quite easy to see at the bottom line, it's telling you what node exactly is having the issue. And so anim graph on the anim node, layered bone blend, and I'll come back to that later. So this other error was just referencing all of my animations. So I ignored this one and just pressed OK. Okay, so from here you can still see that the old skeleton remains, but this is because the blend mask will not allow it to be deleted. When I go back to press delete again, you can still see that all my animations appear up in the previously referenced, and that's because I still need to save. Highlighting one of the animations, you can see there that the new skeleton is attached. So then just go into save. And then coming back, you can see that all the animations that were saved have now gone. And I'm just left with the enemy blueprint and a redirectory. So to fix the redirectory problem, I just choose a high-level folder, right-click, and choose Update Redirectory References. And then if I check again, you can see that the enemy blueprint is the only one left. The blend mask is what's preventing me from deleting the old skeleton. So looking at the error, I need to go into the anim graph, and the layered bone blend node is where the conflict is happening. So that is referencing the old skeleton. So it is possible to fix this error from that node itself. We just need to change the setting on the side. Another way to do it is to go into the old skeleton itself and actually delete that blend. Saved it just in case, and then I was able to delete it. However, just deleting it, you still have that problem with the anim graph. In this case, when I try to go back into my game, my character's T-posing because the animation is broken. So going into my anim graph, you can see that the compiler's failed, and there's a few errors at the bottom. But thankfully, that error took me straight to where I needed to go. And from there, I can see on the option on the side, it's pointing at nothing, and I need to put that back to the blend, remove lower body. So at this point, I can happily delete these two. And then just to change this back to a permanent looking at the body, that's there. The pistol trigger is gone. So now I can move him back. So now I can get rid of this, get rid of the folder. Another problem coming up is all of my objects that are associated with the skeleton come up saying that they're missing bones and to please save the skeleton. Okay, so the best way I can think to explain this is that my character is made up of multiple pieces, and each piece is currently associated with the old rig. So what I need to do is export them all again with the new skeleton instead, and then import them back into Unreal again with the new skeleton attached. And it's the same for my animations as well. So my animations are all still tied to the old skeleton. As long as I haven't made any major changes to the skeleton itself, I can get away with not having to re-export and re-import all of my animations again. But in my case, if I try to re-import one of the animations as it is, which is attached to my old skeleton, it will tell me that the bone pistol trigger is missing. So that error will keep coming up until I re-export my animations with my new skeleton. But I can ignore that. I can fix that as and when. So coming back to the issue of missing bones with the skeletal mesh. So to fix this, it's just a case of going back into Blender, re-exporting your meshes with the skeleton, and then re-importing them back into Unreal. Re-imported with the correct skeleton attached to it. It doesn't come up with any errors. It just goes straight through. Going back in and checking the skeleton, everything is as it's supposed to be. Method 3. Outright deleting the old one and then bringing it back by re-importing. If you have the opportunity and you have sockets, you can try and copy them before deleting. So Control C. Also, if you're trying to delete it and you've got a blend profile, if that is currently being referenced, it will not let you delete the skeleton. As it says here, so my animation blueprint is referencing the blend mask. So if I go back and then remove that blend mask, it will then let me delete the skeleton. Okay, and then I can just go back and re-import, or if I've got a different file, I can do it from there. Okay, so that's my skeleton back. And then if I select the root and then press Control V, it'll put the sockets back to where they were. Okay, next, everything that was referencing the previous skeleton will now have dropped it. So all of your animations and the animation blueprint. I found that if I do this one first and I try and sort the rest of the animations out, Unreal keeps crashing. So for me, I end up having to do this one last. So if I go to where all my animations are and then type in anim sequence, I can then get all the animation sequences at the same time. Asset actions, edit selection and property matrix. And then underneath animation, skeleton. Choose my new skeleton. And then any blend spaces. Blend space. Of course, you can just press Control A as well. You'd have to keep scrolling to the bottom. Same again, asset actions, edit selection and property matrix, animation, skeleton, choose new skeleton. Same for montage. If you've got any montages, it's the same thing. Asset actions, edit selection, animation. And make sure you save as you go. And then when you think you've got everything, then finally do the animation blueprint. Okay, and then for me, because I had a blend profile that was referenced within the animation blueprint, I need to bring that back. I'll bring that back and compile. Other problems which may occur. Okay, so a potential problem I had before was my aim offset got broken. So when I go to aim, my character becomes huge. The reason for this is because within the aim offsets animations, it dropped the additive animation I was using. So if I select all of them, except from my idle, additive settings, ensure I choose correct one. I can now carry on looking around as per normal. So my montages were broken. This one was broken. These ones still are. When I go into it, it's got no name. And then when I click it, it crashes. It crashes the program. Okay, what I did find was clicking straight onto it breaks it. But if you drag in another animation, you can now click it without it crashing. You can even go back in and delete the old one and you'll still be fine. And then you can go and replace it with the correct animation that it was supposed to be at. So in my case, it was supposed to be basic punch, left hand. And there we go. And again, find a random animation, throw it into the same timeline, then get rid of that and put it back to what it was supposed to be. Okay, so right now everything is as it should be, but if I was to import a mesh with an extra bone and then check the skeleton, you can see there it's created a new bone, or in this case it's created that pesky this bone exists only on the skeleton bit. And if you go back and re-import it without the test bone and check again, it will still be there. So when you're importing your separate parts or part of the character, ensure that the skeleton that it's attached to matches what's already there. Otherwise you may get these additionals. Okay, and that wraps up this tutorial. I hope someone found it helpful and that you've learned something along the way. If it did help you, leave a comment. I love reading about those sort of things. And thanks for watching.